Hello and welcome to my podcast, Off the Rails with me, Claire. Today I'm joined by Vera, who's calling in from Lisbon, probably one of my closest proximities, me based in Porto, Vera in Lisbon. We're going to talk about everything fashion design today and where that journey took us. I spoke to Vera yesterday prior to coming online today for this podcast, and we discovered we both have similar startings with our love and passion for fashion design. However, one thing is that we both actually took completely different directions once we'd finished studying that particular course. And I think anybody listening today, it's a really good kind of testament that sometimes you study something, and myself as a career coach, I get asked a lot, do I have to stay in the same avenue? Well, hopefully this conversation today will very much answer a lot of those questions and give you more insights into lots of different ways that you can take after studying fashion design or any other course. So, Vera, welcome to my podcast.
Hi,
Lovely to have you.
thank you for having me. Such an honor to be on a podcast and in your podcast particularly. And it's my first time being interviewed, so really great that it's
Exciting times.
yeah.
So, Vera, tell us, I had the luxury of speaking to you yesterday, without obviously now our audience listening, but give me some insights into who you are. Let's build a picture about who Vera is and what got you first into fashion design. What was it that kind of attracted you to want to study it and understand that world of design a little bit more?
I fell in love with fashion as a kid. I was about 9 at the time, so what drives the kid to something is it's like the just because. And then it builds up on many other things like values and self-expression and all of that. But first is when you are 9 and um, someone asks you why you want to do it, it's just because I want it or because I do. So yeah, I'm 25 now and I'm from Portugal. I have been here almost all my life. I'm a person with a physical disability. I like to spoke about it because I think it's a way to change some mentalities and some part of the bigger picture and the conversation about it. I don't like to make it part of my personality or my being or my life as a whole thing, but I like to mention so people get new ideas what a person with a physical disability, in this case having some trouble walking, I can walk but I don't have much balance and all of that. So yeah, I really want to show that part as well as not being that visible with some help or aids in some case. So yeah, that's me. I always wanted to go to fashion. I never saw my life without fashion. I got into fashion really, really young, and then into some way the system by attending shows really, really young. So I cannot speak about my life before because it's like there is no before in a way.
So it's ingrained in you. You are fashion almost. Like, let's put it that way. So you love fashion for as long as you can remember. It's just something that you've admired, something you want to be around. So then take me to when it comes to a certain age where you want to actually study fashion. Why did you feel like, okay, this is what I want to study it, I want to learn more about it? Tell me kind of your decision to do that, and also what was it like studying fashion in Lisbon?
So I started learning fashion, as I said, really young, and I would like to use berets and all these kinds of accessories at school because I really wanted to express myself. And I think internally, now that I think about it, it was like I want people to look at me for how what I'm wearing and how I'm getting dressed rather than looking at me because I walk in a different way.
Yeah.
So that was really the thing. Then when I was a young girl, I would hate until I was, like I said, about 10. I would hate school. I wouldn't like it to go to school. I would love to skip school. It's not my thing. So, but when you are young, you just don't go away from school like when you are a teen. So when I realized that I had to go to school in order to study fashion, I started attending more to school and really be a great student. And I've always wanted to study in my country because I never saw myself as as possibly living abroad. I always felt I had people living abroad in my family, in my close family, for many years as I can remember. And I really thought that was not my thing, like coming and going and being apart from people and losing special moments. So studying in Lisbon was always a goal for me. And here in Portugal, it's really cool because you don't apply to universities, you apply for a general apply. And then at night, there is this day where you get the email, like if you are approved or not. And I remember vividly was the greatest day of my life because I got to study in Lisbon because I wanted to go there in order to be a student to people I already knew that were my friends and also professionals that I admired. And I was really hungered to learn from them. So the decision was really easy for me to make to study here. But yeah, the whole process of being admitted and doing the national exams and all of that was a really boring process. I don't particularly enjoy it. I was always thinking about it. It's a mean to an end. So yeah, it was pretty easy for me.
Yeah. So you you have this love of fashion, not quite sure where it came from, you just know it was always there, and you're at school, you don't love school, the whole point of it, the transition of it, it's kind of like, okay, well, this isn't where I want to be, particularly right now. However, when you understood your true passion for the fashion industry, you knew that it was a stepping stone to get you to the next point. So it was like, okay, let's hunker down, let's enjoy this for what it is. So you have that part of who you are, which is, okay, I understand where I want to get to, and I know I have to tread a certain path to do that. So that was one kind of common thread that you hold. And we'll get into that a little bit more when we speak about kind of your next steps. But also, there's this part of fashion which you understood your love for it, but then you understood the voice that it gave you as well, and the the appearance that it had and how it translated to other people. So let me see if I can articulate that a little bit better. So for example, you would wear berets, you would wear something that was maybe a little bit more eccentric than the average person in your school or in your area, and you did that because you've also felt like, I don't want your disability, which you've spoken about, to define you. I want to be able to express myself in a different way and be seen first and foremost for my expression and how I can do that through fashion. So, there's this already building like a really strong character about who you are. You're not letting one part of your life define you. That's certainly not what you're going to do. And yes, the academic side of thing is like, not really into this, but I do know that if I want to get here, I have to do this. So, kind of already seeing that you've got this kind of, well, nobody's going to stop me. I love this part of where I see my future going. So I'm going to go through hell and high water to get there. So you're at university now. Tell us a little bit about that. Did that change your mind? When you were studying design, everybody has a certain kind of admiration and a certain kind of view of how it's going to be. However, the reality is sometimes different. Tell me about that was it everything you dreamed of? Was the parts of it that you loved, parts of it that you didn't?
Sorry, I skipped a bit of that part of the question. I'm really sorry. So yeah, I really loved it, and I
Yeah.
started loving school actually because rather when I was in basic school and elementary school, I would enjoy every opportunity to Skype school, and when I was at uni, I would go even if I was dead sick. I would go. I love all the process. I love how all the empathy, like the professors always getting uh, my point of view of things and trying to adapt things so I could do it, because I also have a problem in my left hand. So everything was kind of adapt, and uh, each step of the journey was really close to the professors. And design applied to fashion made me realize there is this set of tools that design has in terms of fashion that can be applied in many things in your life. So I really, really love it. There was this down thing, there was COVID, because it was navigating this process was like we were on Fashion Week when COVID started being talked about in Portugal. We were on Fashion Week. We went to Fashion Week, and I was talking to my professor what's going to happen because we both were there. And then on Monday, we go to school. And on Monday evening, I remember plainly, there was this email saying school would be closed for at least two, 2 weeks, starting the next day. So we were like 1.5 years doing school, doing everything as we always been taught to do. And then COVID hits.
Yeah.
And we started looking at the screen. So that part was a bit tricky to everyone because we were not together, and how we are going to do fashion without togetherness. So yeah, that part was tricky, but that part was really an experience of how fashion can be a really a community, because teachers were learning to do this via Zoom and via online as we were learning fashion design and navigating a thing that no one ever had lived. So yeah, that part really, really made an impression on me. Like, I cannot talk about my process and my journey in university without speaking about that process, because it marked a big chunk of it. Yeah, but after that I did the masters, and we could go to the atelier, and that's great. Like, being in atelier with sewing machines, with that, it's like white noise listening to the sewing machines and everyone coming together to do this thing that it's an individual collection, but you are together doing something individual. That's so great. Like, having the feedback, knowing where you are going, and feel like you have someone there supporting you. There are your teachers. Of course, then you get out and you have to make your own decisions. But that process of letting your imagination go, but relying on constant guidance, now I can see that was pure heaven in a way, because I wouldn't always know what I could do or I should do. And now when you come out, you have to decide for yourself. If you start your own project, you have to make daily decisions that don't rely on advice.
Yeah, so true. So your kind of journey then, you've gone through something that I think none of us will forget, which is COVID, and everybody has their own period of what they experienced, not only COVID, but what they were going through at the time. And yours, of course, was studying, and studying in a different way, and having to pivot, and not only yourself as a student, but also the lecturers, all of a sudden being what can be quite a physical course, because like you just mentioned, you're doing, you're making products, you're designing, it is a community feel. So having to move that from kind of real life to digital is a huge learning curve in itself. And I think we've adapted to that thereafter COVID as well. I think the world has changed to allow for more of that digital process within the fashion industry. I know myself when I was working for Zalando, myself and a lot of the teams, we had to work from home, of course. And even now, a lot of those things that we went through at the time, like virtual buying appointments, I know that a lot of those things still happen today because there are certain efficiencies that have come from that. So there's pros and cons that I know some people like, I wish it never happened to me. It was the worst thing ever. But yes, I think like most things in life, you can always take positives from it as well as, oh, I wish it was a little bit different. But for sure, the industry has changed in some ways for the better due to that. May we never live through it again, but definitely it was some learning from it. So let me take us back to your kind of finishing up your degree in Lisbon. You spoke to me a little bit about St. Martin's. So tell me about that. What happened? What did that entail exactly?
So I was always a bit dreamy, so I wanted to study there, but I knew I would not be able to be a long run course there, because I could not be alone in a way, physically alone in another country. So I decided to think about it as summer course, and then I started learning and English and trying to get better at it, to go to St. Martin's. And then it was my 18th birthday, and my grandpa had never gave me or my cousins any birthday presents. He would put everything into a bank account.
Right.
So then he, when we got to 18, he would give us the account. So I spent every penny in London, having a lot of fun, buying the course, buying a week of the course, going with my parents for a week. He living the whole London experience, B&A and everything.
Sorry. Anybody listening, my dog is being the biggest pain, and he is literally. I'm going to go off the screen for 1 second till I sort my dog out.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Nobody do a podcast with your dog alone in the house during the day, because I knew that would happen. Before we came on, I was like, he's going to be okay. He's going to, just chill out. Of
But
course,
dogs are cute always.
that back wasn't that cute. I'm not so sure. Let me know what anybody thinks about the back and through the middle of the podcast. Right. Let me get my head back into what you just said. So your grandpa, 18th birthday, giving you the money. Let's
Yeah, and then I did an introduction course to fashion design, and the thing was, I really get to unlock creativity concerning fashion, but this explosion of creativity, getting together with people that love fashion, I had never felt that before, because it was before university. So getting together with people that know what you are talking about when you talk about fashion, and when you develop ideas together, and be at St. Martin, that is so free, and it's such a cool cultural environment in London, the way it's placed in the city, the way you can go to exclusive exhibits during the summer courses, being with the tutors that were really struggling to pronounce my name, but never forget it afterwards, even a year after when I came back. So it's really condensed. It's a 1 week experience, but it's so condensed. It's so good. It's so fulfilling in terms of visuals, in terms of connecting, in terms of emotions, because fashion is so emotional. And then when it came to an end, we all cried a lot, because we get really connected in a week. Like, how can you connect so much with your classmates through fashion? Because people think fashion is some way shallow or something like that, or about vanity, but you learn like the principles that were exploring your creativity without being afraid to be evaluated because we were not getting grades, and
Yeah.
connect uh, fully and truly with people you are with. So I think that was a great starting point for me studying fashion. And then I had always had this entrepreneurial spirit when I was thinking to be a fashion designer in a more classical sense of the word. And what I did was the next year I came back and I did how to start your own fashion business. And then it's really more interesting because you then was a really diverse age group of people, and getting to know how to deal with money in terms of fashion, how to deal with things that people consider boring, like taxes and all of that, not only gives you skills for fashion, but gives you skills for life.
Yeah.
And that was really important. And having that during the summer, during a relaxed environment, because summer school is much more relaxed, really roots into you and really roots into, okay, I want to do something, but some procedures, some methodology stayed with me. Like, I want to do it, so let me do a little list of how I wanted to do it. Let me plan. Let me make some boring math on it. So more than give me the basis to, and the foundation to be an entrepreneur in fashion in the future, it gave me some basis also to become an adult. And that's really, really important. How many skills can fashion give you for life, even outside fashion and as a person, just but through the fashion as a transporter vehicle, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, completely. I think the fundamentals that you have picked up along the way, you can't put a price on them. Your experience is unique to you. So you've had this experience in Lisbon with studying fashion design. Then you've had, the complexities of COVID on top of that. But, when you really look at it, maybe there was skills that were adopted within that time that actually are so unique and so fresh, because we're now living of the fruits of that particular time, which is great. There's been a lot of advantages since there, but you went through it in real time. Then you went and you studied at St. Martin's in, this short period, but however short, super, super impactful, through the connections, through the people that you met, through, having a window into like this different journey that is a possibility. And then you've also gone and equipped yourself with basically like you say again, kind of the foundation of what makes any good business person is to understand how to survive in business without knowing how you're going to basically pay for. Let's talk about fashion design in particular. This applies to most, and not if any industry, but especially fashion design, where if you are going into that business, there is a lot of money that has to go out before you start getting money back in. You've got to maybe buy machines, you've got to buy fabric, you've got to maybe you can do everything yourself when it comes to manufacturing, but if you have to hire somebody. So there's a lot in that where it all, again, anybody that thinks design and the world of fashion is easy or a nice to do, a really like fairy kind of way of life, there is so many fundamental things that you have to get right to succeed in that industry, because there is a lot of supply before you receive the demand from the consumer. So to your point of learning those fundamental things about, how a business survives financially, then on top your taxes, all of those things, understanding margin and profit and quantity and stock turnover and all these fun things that is a whole other conversation. Yeah, you've gone through kind of all of the processes to really set you up for success in that entrepreneurial life. So you're at this point now, and I know, but for anybody listening, you've gone down a route of like a little bit back to academia as we spoke yesterday. So it's kind of it's quite cool that we speak of it in this really condensed way, because we've heard only like a couple of minutes ago of where your journey started in academia, and it was like not the you didn't welcome it with open arms. However, you grew to fall in love with it because you chose an area that you were passionate about. So you've done that. And tell me now about kind of where it is you are now and what you're doing, and how that journey is going so far.
So I think I never lost this entrepreneurial spirit of mine. But as you said, having something physical was not is really expensive. And many people, many designers in Portugal are doing it so well, that I thought that it needed to be studied and needed to be talked about and written about. And that came from my dissertation and my master thesis when I wrote about Lisbon Fashion Week and found documents, but I felt that needed to be written more about how we do fashion here. And I really fell in love with trying to tell it, to storytell it in a different way. Yeah, I try to do like fashion studies in a less academic way, but with academic principles. But yeah, I try to do it as a digital business in the future. So I think it as a fashion brand still, but a fashion brand that tells the other kind of story, and the stories of designers and fashion and independent fashion, because fashion need for fashion, in order to happen, it has to have many persons doing it, and it has to be talked about, and it has to be studied, like when you study, like let's say when people do studies in terms of meds, so other people can cure you or treat you when you are sick. So I really wanted to fill that void of talking more about independent fashion and Portuguese fashion, and studied it, but with my design tools that I have learned in that methodology, and in applying the design method to fashion. So
Right.
that's why I don't consider myself a journalist, and I think I will never be considered, because it's different methods, different ways of working and having work done. But yeah, for now I have created this platform called the Fashion Stand Up, where I do fashion studies and research in a more mainstream kind of way, if we can say that. And I try to talk about fashion like the system and not only the trends, like we see on many mainstream media, that it's always about trends or specific topics, but not as often as it should. So yeah, I do that. And now I'm doing more like building community face and building audience. And then let's see where it takes us. Yeah, but COVID really brought me these skills to be able to do with something digitally and to be able to work from home were skills that I really for sure um learned from COVID. Yeah.
That's super cool. So you've established yourself in this particular area. Who is it that you're, let's say, attracting? Like, is there a certain demographic? Is it a certain age group? Who is it that's kind of you're finding that's super interested in this way of learning that you're offering to people?
I think some Gen Zs, I have connected with them, and some that's, I don't know if they are Gen Zs because they are younger than me, but they have had cell phones. smartphones when they got their first cell phone. So there is this small but big generation gap, because there is the zillennials like me, and then there is people that already were born into the 2000s and
Yeah.
have everything digital, so it's a bit tricky. But it's really cool because I never thought I would some way inspire younger people than me, because I always connected with older people
Yeah.
and I always been friends with them. Yeah, but there is this part and there is this boomer part. There are, of course, my best friends are in there, but other people, and that's really interesting. This mixed up of audiences that comes together a bit randomly and a bit
Yeah.
not, and it's really interesting, I think.
Yeah, that's
The
cool that
middle, the
yeah.
middle, I cannot assure there is the main audience of mine, but the extremes are, because I think the extremes touch themselves, right? So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah, exactly. No, it's cool just to see who's interacting. And of course, I'll share all your socials once this goes live. So anybody that is interested in what you do I'll navigate them towards you and for them to learn more about exactly what you can offer, which I think is super cool. So one thing I picked up on as we've been talking is obviously your pride in, one thing was studying in Lisbon. The other is you've spoken about Portuguese fashion. So you've had the experience of being at Fashion Week, and most specific, Lisbon Fashion Week. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what is it like? And if there is any kind of designers that you are loving, that you really admire. So talk us through the Lisbon Fashion Week, and also kind of any designers that you've really admire.
so. I went to Fashion Week for the first time when I was 11. It was a journey, a dream, like these Barbie fairy tales kind of movies, or Princess Diaries kind of movies, because I felt like a real time princess when you are 11. Going to a fashion show is the best thing in the world, and it continues to be the best thing in the world. But then you grow up and you become more knowledgeable and more wise. So I'm going to be a nerd here, but because I studied it. So Lisbon Fashion Week is actually the first independent fashion week in the world. So because there were the four fashion capitals that were established, and then there was these young people that were really brave to come up with this project during the 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 party of the city, like the festivities of the city one day, and they tried and they did the pilot of it, how it would be to have a fashion week in Portugal or outside the Big Four. And then in 1991 they did the first ever fashion week in Portugal, ever Lisbon Fashion Week ever. And the thing is, Lisbon Fashion Week is really particular because it gives the platforms to designers and through creativity, without designers having to have this huge amount of sales and having all this money put on the show and all of that. Of course they spend it, but through sponsorships and through many collabs and people that work really hard and are really amazing when what they do. Every edition, designers can present their work without having this platform, when they can have the venue, have the backstage teams working with them, and also PR teams working with them, and all of that, having so many facilities to work with and having a place to show and to be the promotion being care of, then all of that environment that a fashion week gives to your brand, and the opportunities having that without having to pay for it, having someone providing that for you in terms of creativity is something amazing. And I think that's what makes me love Lisbon Fashion Week so much, in terms of going and also of mission, what they do, what Moda Lisboa does. And also that's why I studied them. And I think that's why Portuguese fashion system is such a cluster, such a different cluster from other fashion clusters in the world, because we work like a small family or a big family, but everyone knows almost everyone, and you really come together to have this freedom and have this hard work that needs to be done when you are creative in a country that is not doesn't have this tradition of creative freedom, because we had fascism and dictatorship and every of that. So it's not in our bones, but people make it in our bones. And then offering that to your and these people having the opportunity to welcome new generations, and as some other people trying to nurture new talent, uh, and established talent, and everyone in between. It's such a blessing for our system, and that's why I talk so much about it, and I'm really proud to be Portuguese in fashion because of it, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's cool, and there's a lot of things that you've spoke about there that I wasn't aware of. So I think it's always good to know more about the establishment, where it was born, the journey that it's been through. And I think a lot of people, when they think about Portugal and fashion, the first thing that comes to mind is the manufacturing and the production side of things. That is something that, again, has been very long established in Portugal and is becoming, I would say, kind of on the incline again, due to the huge talks around sustainability and people moving away from the likes of the Far East and bringing it more near shore and having that European manufacturing. However, we don't often speak about, or it's not publicized enough about, the amazing designers and, like you say, the fashion family that is established here in Portugal and what that looks like, and to celebrate that more. So I think it's good to create that awareness and have people know and be curious and want to know more about that. So for anybody listening to this, who, in your opinion, are kind of a couple of designers that are amazing in the Portuguese scene, whether they're long time established or kind of coming through and quite new? Who is it?
Oh my gosh, such
Big question.
yeah. I love Ricardo Andres because I love the way he puts things, and the way he plays with proportions. I have a couple of pieces from him that I love. More. I love Mestre Studio. That is this young designer that he's about my age. He does an amazing work. New designers are doing amazing work, like Mestre Studio. Francisca Nebinho is also doing an amazing job with textile creation, and also really playing with wovens and fabric manipulation, and it's really going back to the crafts. Behan is an amazing young brand, but really established, that takes traditional Portuguese fabrics and heritage from our country and makes it fashionable. So it's an amazing, difficult work they do. And I had the great pleasure to interview one of my classmates that's now working at there, and it's really cool. more established ones. It's really difficult because I'm going to left someone behind because I'm going.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's just good to get an insight. And also what I'll do is I will mention some of the designers as well, so that anybody listening that has a curiosity of, okay, I want to know more about who this is and what they do. And you've mentioned lots of different techniques and established and new and heritage kind of designers through those couple that you've only just mentioned. So I will definitely share those so everybody can do their own bit of digging and curiosity.
The more established ones, for me, it's difficult to talk
Yeah.
because you learn from them. You kind of, they are like idols to you when you are studying, and then you get to know them, and it's yeah. But Nun Baltazar, I have these pants from him, and I feel like a supermodel when I wear them because they are so pretty and makes you feel so empowered, and they makes your legs look so good, and that's
And that's it. You come full circle about the whole topic of, fashion design being something more than just a product. It's about a feeling, it's about empowerment, it's about a lot of things that when you put something on, it creates a feeling that you want to portray. And I know I'll do it. If I'm not feeling good, I will very much dress how I'm feeling. I don't want to be seen. I'll wear something, kind of blend in. If I'm feeling good, I want to wear something bold. I want to wear something that is form fitting, that makes me good. So I think, it's a real kind of opportunity for people to look at fashion in a different way and show and feel how you can really express what's internally happening on the outside. And I think that's the beauty of fashion. It is a form of art. And when you really understand it and appreciate it, you can very much, play into that. And I think not only for yourself, but you can also, like you, who is somebody that really enjoys going to Lisbon Fashion Week, you see probably quite quickly you're able to really understand probably the story behind a lot of collections and kind of I see where that's come from. I can imagine where that idea was born, and those sorts of things, because you've got that, let's say, almost insider information, having studied design and having that passion for design. So that's super cool. So where you are right now is, you're giving back almost. You're giving back to whoever it is, not necessarily the next generation, but whoever it is. You're an open book with anybody that is interested in fashion and their way of wanting to know a little bit more. Is there something in your head that you want to do next? Do you have any ideas that where you want to go next? Or is this something that you're like, this is where I feel comfortable right now, I'm going to keep going with this and then evolve? I asked that question because you seem such a person that's kind of like, okay, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go for this. And there's no stopping you. You're constantly going. So I'm curious what's next.
So yeah, I always have been like that, and I always thought I would be a fashion designer with in a classic sense of the word and the expression. And I did not. It happened in a different way. Not I wanted to happen this way, but was not a long way that was planned. For now, I know I'm still young, but for the first time I live in the present moment. When you are young in this world, and especially with the physical disability in a world that is so messed up, and it comes someone and says, let's all be inclusive. No, let's stop being inclusive, and let's only focus on the able person and all of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Everyone
I do.
must know what I'm talking about right now. And anxiety really kicks in sometimes. And as I was talking to you about when COVID happened, everyone was anxious because it was not because we are working it digitally. We were anxious because we would not know if it was some kind of end of the world thing.
Yeah.
And I always have been a bit too anxious sometimes, like the person who always worries when someone tries not like takes 2 hours to reply. I'm always worst case scenario person. So now I'm really trying to live in the moment and really try to enjoy myself and really try to enjoy having the luxury of having time to build something for myself and having the time to work from home and be with my dog. That's amazing. And these small pieces of life there are. And yeah, it doesn't make me like slower in life. It makes me still have this adrenaline and pulse of what fashion really is, but in terms that's let's just go and work and work and work, because fashion is about working hard. And then if you work hard and you really love it, great things will happen, and you always find ways to work with fashion, sometimes with more, I don't know, more luxury, more stuff that money can buy, other times with luxury that's not buyable. So I think that's really it. But yeah, I would love to make this thing bigger. Of course, I would love to make it really broad with many satellite projects all along the way. All of that, of course, we all dream really big. But for now, I do one step at a time, because I want to have this freedom to write about what I want and tell the stories I want to tell. So yeah, now I'm in peace doing really what I want to do, that is talk about fashion in a deeper sense and try from with my little grain of rice do what I can do to promote independent fashion and Portuguese fashion. So that's it.
I think that's like, I couldn't have asked for a better answer. I think there's a lot in what you just said. You're very passionate about what you want to do and how you want to do it and your application towards that. And you're passing on your knowledge to those that are interested, which again is a beautiful gift to be able to pass forward. And I think you're right. There is so much that as the human race, we're constantly chasing something that's in front of us, and we don't know what's in front of us because we can't see it. So we're chasing the unknown. And I think it is so important for us to stop and take a stock of where we are and enjoy the moment. We don't do that enough. Because it's ingrained in us that, chase after it, keep going, bigger, better. None of us know that the next thing is bigger, better. We should nurture what we have in front of us. So it's a lovely takeaway, and a lovely closing note that anybody listening to this, we've spoken about a lot of where you start your journey. If you apply yourself to something, the passion that can be driven out of it, do something that you feel has purpose in life. And because you enter in one way doesn't mean that that is your destiny. You can amend things along the way, and you can move and make things how you want them to be. And I think the final takeaway is definitely what you said, is enjoy the moment and enjoy being where you are. And I think that is a really important message, because this world is filled with anxious moments. And if we can just take a stock of what we're doing, I think we'll actually realize we're actually putting more out than what we take for granted. I think when you go in at such a pace, you don't realize what you're putting out in the world, but actually every day that you get up, you're doing something. And I think more people like you that, want to promote homegrown talent, including yourself, which is brilliant. And I think it's a really, really great takeaway. So I have more than enjoyed talking to you today. getting to know you a little bit more. I think you have so much to offer. As I've mentioned, and I always do when I wrap up these podcasts, is I will for sure link all of your socials so that anybody listening that wants to learn more about you and what you have to offer, which is a lot, I will direct them to you.
Thank you so
much for today. I really enjoyed it. I hope you have too.
I loved it. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. And yeah, then watch this space. I think, like anything, especially when somebody's in kind of a period where they're starting out and establishing themselves, there's only room to grow. So I look forward to watching this journey, and who knows, we might talk again in a whenever it may be, and looking forward to the evolution of what that is. But thank you so much, Vera, and I hope everything goes.
Thank you so much for giving me.
Thank you.